Okay, morning everyone. Morning everyone. I will just start the meeting. As I said, morning. Thank you all for attending this meeting today. As always, Katlego Dikobe, the general manager at the GPMA. I'm glad, okay, Katie already started recording. But as again, thank you for attending the session. This is obviously the Urban Practice Forum, which is based off of month to month, bringing in different professionals in the development and urban management industry that can share some insights that are of value for our network, our members, our CID managers, and various stakeholders that we engage with, right? So, really, today's session is based off of urban management best practice. What I mean by that is obviously we are in the process, well, the continual process of attempting to regenerate the inner city, regenerate Johannesburg. And I think it's always good to get more lessons from a wide range of professionals that have been involved in various regenerative projects to really share their insights. So the speaker today will shed light on that. And then obviously we're moving towards more efficient urban management. So we brought in a speaker that can also assist in how to be more efficient in the urban management practice, right? So, as always, to start, we have to float the minutes from the previous meeting on the 1st of July. Really, really dynamic session. But definitely, Katie, may you please float the minutes from the 1st of July? And then we'll fly to the agenda and then start with the presentations. Thank you.
Morning, Kutliko. I'm on it. Sorry, I was going to the wrong menu, strangely. So I'm in the process of doing that now.
Fun.
Sorry, there we are.
Thank you very much, Katie. As always, just please look at the email and the organization and also the spelling of your name just so we can make sure everything is accurate. And just make any notes as well from the minutes if there's some points that you'd like to address before we float the agenda for today. And obviously now it's the 1st of August. Um, just any points that you'd like to address in the minutes, please just put it in the chat box while Katie floats the agenda for the day. I see there's apologies from Tina from Parktown Business District. Any other apologies, please put them in the chat box as well. So this is obviously the agenda for today. The first presenter, Rudewaan, then Tony Saint Saintich, And obviously, we'll have a Q&A session after each presentation. Uh, I just want to get an indication through thumbs up to accept and adopt the agenda. Just one or two should be fine. But also, I will take silence as accepting the agenda. Okay. Uh, Thanks for that, Katie. We can remove the minutes. I just wanted to share. I wanted to float this visual before we start today's session. So, really, it's just to say all the efforts that we are putting in. The idea is to just always readjust, restart as many times until we achieve the ultimate goal. So, I really just read this and felt like it really embodies the process of regeneration because obviously the first project that you try won't necessarily work, but it also could. But it's just a matter of trying different things until one works and then maintaining that one and adjusting it and obviously making sure you're achieving the goal. So with that being said, I'll just stop sharing the visual. So the first speaker for today is Rudewaan Arendse. He is a consultant and he's very seasoned in the precinct management, placemaking, and sustainable industrial and local economic development industry, boasting over 20 years of experience. He's worked with organizations such as the World Bank and the UNIDO. He's been part of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he's really been involved in creating various toolkits that guide the urban management industry and urban management process. So, really, this man is a encyclopedia of knowledge, experience, and expertise in urban management, urban development, sustainable development, precinct management, so on and so forth. So, definitely today, what he'll be presenting is the urban reset model, which is essentially how to strategically sequence safety safety services and development in fragile and contested urban spaces. So I'm just going to open up the floor to you, Rudewaan, just to give your introductions and go into your presentation. Just let me know if you want me to float it or you are able to float it on your side. Thank you.
Thanks, Katlego, and good morning. Katlego, I'll just see if I can do it from my side. If not, then I'll ask you. But thank you, people. And thank you for that introduction, Katlego. My name is Rudewaan Arendse. I was formerly responsible for the Industrial Park, Industrial Space Revitalization Program of the City Support Program of National Treasury. And I did some work with the World Bank also in terms of supporting National Treasury and some global best practice about around precinct management and so forth. Like what I thought I'd share with you is a framework that I developed based on the experience around precinct management, around revitalization and economic development, uh, but in South Africa, but also drawing on insights and gathered from working with colleagues elsewhere in the world and some of my own work elsewhere also. So I thought so what you're going to be seeing is really an output as a that came from that experience and that track record, and it's a proposition, what I'm going to be putting forward. So I'll just try and share my screen quickly. Okay, can you see a PowerPoint there?
Yes, it's all clear on my side. Thank you.
Okay, so you feel free to stop me, wherever. It's only a few slides, about 10 or 11. I'll probably go a bit faster on some of them and a bit slower on the others, but the idea is really to encourage discussions. So I titled this thing Urban Reset, Strategic Sequencing of Safety Services and Development in Fragile and Contested Urban Spaces. And the reason I titled in that is that, you know, whether we call it a precinct, an area, an industrial space, a commercial node, a CBD or a CID, they're all contested urban spaces. So the application, irrespective of the label, the concept applies. And then also refer to resilience by design. I think we all know about resilience. We all know about design. But essentially the thesis is that we need to factor in and we need to design resilience into our interventions from the start. You know, when we conceptualize a project and intervention from the start and not as an afterthought. And I really believe as, you know, if we have this resilience by design approach, it could be catalytic in terms of recovery and renewal and so forth. And then linked to that, there's also a proposition that we need to factor in a gendered approach into our interventions, again, from the start, whether it's the use of how do we plan our spaces from a gender perspective, and one gets some quite unique insights from that perspective. So again, it's about urban reset, it's about resetting all of our approaches vis-a-vis resilience, vis-a-vis a gendered lens, vis-a-vis the green imperative and so forth. So just in terms of the purpose and the overview, this reset is a phased, systems-driven model for transforming fragile urban spaces. Now, it strategically sequences safety, service delivery, and development. And essentially what it says is that it's very difficult to talk about service delivery if you've not dealt with or if you are not dealing with safety and security issues. Similarly, it's very difficult to talk about inner city development in the absence of any kind of safety and security. So here we're saying that these phases may overlap, they may iterate or recur based on local context and readiness, and we can discuss that. And again, this model is grounded in global evidence and suited to complex high-risk precincts and public transport interchanges. Just to delve a bit more into that, when I was doing the city support program, I was responsible for revitalizing 4 industrial areas in 4 different metros. The one was in the city of Tshwane, Babalegi, out in the Hammanskraal area. I then had Ekurhuleni metro, Wadeville in Germiston, which is a massive industrial area. And then Soweto, it was Devland, city of Johannesburg, and in eThekwini, it was this Jacobs area in the South Durban Basin. Now, those areas, they varied quite substantially in terms of size, complexity, and scale. I'm not going to go into all of the details about what we did there, but essentially what came out of our engagements and interventions, we did business retention and expansion surveys, stakeholder engagements, really, and remember at the time it was as National Treasury, so we were able to engage with pretty much everybody from the metros to industry, to communities, to the funders and so forth. But what came out of all of those 4 areas was that if you wanted to revitalize any industrial space, we subsequently tested it with, your special ratings areas, CIDs, and so forth. Like 70% of the issues, whatever they may be, can be tackled by addressing safety and security. The next one was basic services and infrastructure, your water, sanitation, and so forth, electricity. And the third one was land governance. How do we manage the space, more especially from a municipality zoning, rezoning, subdivision, etc. rights perspective. So that is it. We then interacted. One of the key things that went with it was to understand what would be the most appropriate institutional model for those spaces. But I'll come back to that further down in the presentation. So essentially what this reset model is saying is if it's got three major themes. The one is stabilize. And that really is saying we need to, that refers to focus policing, bylaw enforcement, and territorial control. In the next few slides, I unpacked it in a lot more detail. The second theme is rebuilding trust. They need to be visible, and I say green service delivery to meet basic needs and restore legitimacy. The issue becomes we have an opportunity then to, if we're looking at infrastructure interventions and development, and the eco imperative, climate change, and so forth, we have an opportunity. If we're going to address services, we need to do it from a, from an eco-industrial or from a climate perspective. And then the transformers are really talking about the sustainable development, the spatial justice, the co-governance, and all of those good things that goes with it. Like, so why it works, there are global and local case studies that shows that phase-targeted, multi-stakeholder, data-driven models are effective. And those are very specifically noted as such. It's phased. So it is a recognition, it is a kind of a, we learn as we go, it's phasing, it's targeted, it's multi, so as a collective, we're going to do it. It's driven by data and not narratives. One of the biggest challenges we found was that many interventions are driven by narrative understandings that are not supported by the actual data. So yes, I'm not going to go into all the details, but globally, there are a lot of different case studies, particularly in Latin America, Colombia, Medellin, Mexico, Brazil. I worked with a colleague of mine from Medellin. His name is Santiago. He was working with me at the World Bank, and he was part of a team that was addressing safety issues in Medellin immediately after the Pablo Escobar crime and the related issues that the city had. And one of the things that many of us know about is the social urbanism model of Medellin, and how good that is for the urban practice and so forth. But the literature very seldom refers to the safety and security elements that needed to be put into place first before we could get to the social urbanism. For example, many of those, those informal areas in Medellin that are now held up and showcased as models for others to emulate. They were crime-infested spaces, and the only way that they could get rid of the crime to start the social urbanism was really to have a very strong territorial control where the police, the state services intervened in those spaces. And in some instances, I'm not proposing we must do this in South Africa. The state had shootouts with the criminals for 3 days, just so that this police could come, or the state could come into a territory and say, this territory is under state control. It's not going to be controlled by a drug lord or crime syndicates. And only after they did that and they could hold the territory, could the social and the other urbanism related interventions around, the good stuff we talk about can come that in. But unless that space was created, it would not have been possible. So anyway, variations of that is taking place, or elements of it in different case studies. And in South Africa, we have our own models that we can tap into. So one is not talking about it being mutually exclusive. One is really just saying there are elements across all of these that can be drawn on, and if we put them together, essentially this is what they translate to. Like. So there's an evidence base, there's an empirical case study evidence base for what we're talking about. So yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time distinguishing safety from security. A general definition has always been that I use is that security has to deal with intentional harm. How do you keep a place safe from intentional harm in terms of crime or so forth? Whereas the safety component really is about unintentional, sometimes unintentional harm. And they, in this graphic, it demonstrates against security in terms of police, very much a law enforcement police function. So we can never have a situation where the state abdicates its responsibility of safety and security, and pass that responsibility onto the community. Now, I've been involved with a lot of community projects and initiatives where, yes, we need to have community policing, and all of those things are necessary, but the community and non-state entities do not have a statutory responsibility for security in a territory. And so, and there are certain roles, responsibilities, obligations, and duties that comes with it, and one cannot blur those things. Anyway, so that's just the issue on safety and security. So it's just a core problem. You know, most of our spaces, whether they're in the township, whether they're in an industrial area, whether they're a precinct or an urban space or even a rural space, we have high crime. You know, we can look at statistics and experiences, and I'm sure throughout the country there are all kinds of indications thereof. So we have high crime, we have many illicit markets. There generally is a lack of resources amongst the law enforcement apparatus, and then also lack of institutional will. What we also have is fragmented governance that undermine the development. In many areas, there are overlapping governance responsibilities and things, and people fill in the gaps. Like one of the things that is a major impediment to addressing crime is the refusal of the South African police services to release crime statistics. I'm not talking about the stats that we're getting, that you get your quarterly stats from SAPS, which you can go pull off on the internet. They're useful, but they just give you a high level indication of this area is in the top 10 crimes, and these are the. But what the SAPs have, and unpack a bit more about it now, they have the very particular details of every incident. So they will have, as part of the crime report, when it gets logged into the crime system at the local SAPS office, they have the location, they have the nature of the crime, they have the exact location, the time, and so forth. Now, when we were involved, when I was with the CSP, we met with the SAPS nationally, and we indicated to them that we really would need much more granular information from SAPS to be able to do proper crime intervention. And I'll explain what I mean by that. One of the things from tackling crime is one need to know where crime happens, and what time, because we adopted a kind of a spatial approach to a spatial temporal approach to crime fighting or addressing it, which was, if you know that certain crimes occur at a certain location at a certain time slot, then you can better allocate your limited resources. At a very simplistic level, we all know that Sunday morning at 11 o'clock is probably not a high crime slot, throughout the country. But we all know that probably between 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock on a Friday night and a Saturday night, there's more than likely a lot of trauma and crime that's going to be taking place in those slots. So really, it's just a much more sophisticated, nuanced approach to that type of data analytics around crime fighting. And that would help with a whole host of stuff in terms of resource deployment for SAPs, for the community, for others, and so forth. So it's just so where we're saying, even if there's a lack of resources, which there are in the SAPs, they would tell us, look, Rudewaan, I have at the station in the South Durban Basin, I have one police station, I have 2 vehicles, but the problem is I have 3 staff, but one of them is on sick leave. So I've got 2 people. I have 2 vehicles and 2 staff. I mean, I can't send them out. So it's that type of resource constraints. And then the institutional will is with SAPS is nothing stops them from giving the data. Industry and other stakeholders can address the crime issue. Again, I'll come back to those kind of stuff models. So we also say that traditional models are either too security focused. Now, there is a sense of there's a very securitized, militaristic, kragtadige type of approach to safety and security, which is also not necessarily appropriate. And the other extreme again is that it's too developmental led, without stabilization. So it's a really a kind of, I kind of refer to a kind of kumbaya process. All of us get together, and somehow just because we're getting together collectively, and we can tick all the boxes of who's in the room, that's co-designing and co-planning and this and that. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem either. So those two extremes, it's either the one or the other. And really, what the model is positing is that we need to strike a balance between those. And then siloed approaches, lack of coordination and sustainability. So that's the kind of core problem that I think manifests throughout the country in every space at any scale. So what does urban reset? It says we need to stabilize, and the end game there is we need to restore safety and state authority, and that's quite important. And in the next slide, I actually unpack each of these. We need to restore the safety and state authority. And we say state authority because the state is responsible, however defined, whether it's a local government, a provincial government, national state entity, whatever it is. But that authority needs to be, because in the absence of state authority, you have non-state actors, and that's creating a problem. So the first element in the urban reset, it's not necessarily, I'm talking about strategic sequencing. So conceptually and theoretically, you need to stabilize first. Then once you have a stabilized situation, remember the concept I was explaining when they went into in Medellin, they didn't talk about we're going to rebuild trust first and we're going to put green infrastructure and a library in the middle of a slum first. They first said we need to get rid of the narco drug traders and the criminal syndicates in the area first. And once we've done that, then we can put in the beautiful library and the social urbanism. So it's really just that, but recognizing there needs to be some kind of looping between it, right? And then once we have basic services in place, I mean, they are very basic stuff. We once sat in a session with Treasury with some Metro staff, and they were workshopping, and one of the sessions was, how can we be innovative? How can we do extraordinary interventions in terms of out of the box kind of thinking to tackle problems? And the kind of conclusion and the resolution was, guys, look, listen here, just for a metro to do its job, just to do the basics, that in itself will be extraordinary. So we're at that level where it's really just like, get the water sanitation and electricity going. We don't want, if you can do that's what we need. So it's really about rebuilding that bit. And then we can transform. Then we can talk about inclusive, enable development. And so. But if you've got a lawless context with fragmented, no services, a lack of proper governance of the space, talking about inclusive development really becomes a kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of a villa in the jungle. Then we're really just building little villas in the jungle that are unsustainable. And the moment the donor funding or the grant funding dries up, then the invention ceases to be, then the experiment stops, then the pilot stops. And that is what we want to move away from. The challenge is how do we then, so anyway, so the model is you stabilize first, you rebuild, you transfer, recognizing though that you need to look between these phases, if you like. So there at the bottom, I say feedback loop between each phase ensures adaptive learning and institutional alignment. So constant looping across, and so forth. And I'll give you an example where this thing was almost just as an example of the interplay between the phases. The South Durban Basin, the Isipingo area, that's where the Toyota plant is, where they produce Toyota for the country. It's a massive area. And much of the industry down there is as part of the supply chain for Toyota. eThekwini is struggling with safety and security. eThekwini Metro is struggling. They have many sits up there. interacted with almost all of them, and so we understand some of the issues. But down in the south, they then created also, I can't remember the name of it, an intervention, if you like, where from a safety perspective, they had a precinct management company, an NGO, establish its own control room. So they had their own control room in the Durban CBD. I don't know if it's called the Ambassador or the Embassy building, but anyway, on one of those floors, there's a control room managed by the precinct management, not by the security company, not by the SAPs, not by, Metro Police either. The precinct, the non-state entity had its own control room, and the cameras and infrastructure were financed by industry in that particular area. So what they then had is that Toyota as the main player there, basically convening its suppliers, and everybody worked together. And so they mapped that area in Sipingo around the Toyota facilities. And they placed strategic cameras at specific intersections. So they really, from a crime and a vulnerability mapping, they mapped the entire district area precinct, if you want. They fitted it with cameras financed by industry, local industry, and then fed it into the control room. And in that way, you had a non-state actor was able to augment crumbling or fragmented state law enforcement, whether it was SAPs who was struggling with resources in the area, or whether it was Metro Police that weren't maybe specifically focused on that area down there, type of thing, or not enough of a focus because it was spread thin and so forth. But again, you then have the non-state actor provide situational awareness across to SAPs and to Metro Police, and there was some coordination and so forth. But anyway, so that it's just to illustrate that the model, it's not just one-way directionality, from a strategic. There is that, but there's also the looping back and the iteration. So now I'm just going to go into a lot more detail on each of these phases. So when we say conceptually phase one, we say policing and law enforcement, stabilization. We need to stabilize the area. So the objective is to establish control, reduce immediate threats, and reassert state authority in high crime areas. We have here in Cape Town the Greater Tygerberg Partnership, the Bellville CBD. It's a classic example. There's a big public transport interchange, the taxis, challenges there. The MACO member, JP Smith, there's a lot in the news nationally and locally for his tackling, some of the taxi-related crime issues in the Cape, but also more especially in that year. But there's really an attempt at re-establishing state authority in high crime areas. So part of the actions under this purview is really around community policing, building trust and visibility of law enforcement through non-militarized community responsive policing. And I think that's quite important. We're saying, yes, we need to have the policing, but they need not a militarized approach, like enforcement of municipal bylaws, and it's a critical thing. And one of the challenges, let me just read it quickly and tell you about the challenge. It says bylaws around street trading, traffic, parking, public space use, building, waste man, and noise levels. Now, unless those are, they are there for a reason, unless they are enforced, you're not actually applying the law. The law is not being applied. And one of the interesting things that I still haven't tried, I tried, but I haven't figured out in the Gauteng, not Gauteng, the Greater Tygerberg Partnership, you have a lot of traders, and I suppose like everywhere, a lot of non-South African traders, and they are designated as bays for trading. But somehow they've developed an understanding about how they're going to tackle trading in those limited spaces. And it's trading in spaces where no trading is supposed to be, but it still does not comply with the law. So how do you deal with that type of thing? Then you have the fragmented governance issue. especially around the public transport interchanges, where you had some of the land is really not under the control of a local authority, but under PRASA because it's PRASA property and so forth. So you have these gaps coming in. So people go and trade or to conduct business or something on the PRASA component, but you know, the local authority has got no authority to enforce over. So it's those, how do you deal with that? Deploy the hotspots controls, which is really where the intelligence is coming from. And then target violent crime, drug traffic, abuse, gangs, criminal elements. I'm not going to go into it. In the Belleville area, I don't know, I'm sure it will be in other areas, there's a lot of issues around counterfeit goods and contraband, illicit markets, human traffic, prostitution, underground. All of those things are present within our industries, within our precincts. And yet, you know, the state as a broadly, you know, what are being done about it, like. So the rationale around that phase, around the enforcement and stabilization is really said, look, residency, tenure, commerce, passenger transport, transit development cannot thrive in environments characterized by crime, violence, and insecurity. Success depends on the presence of recognized territorial authority. You know, it needs to be recognized there, not taxi warlords or crime bosses controlling rent seeking and extortion, which is happening in the spaces. So when one is saying a recognized territorial authority, it means that the authority must have the legitimate right or legal jurisdiction to govern, manage, and enforce rules as well as control, which refers to the actual capacity to exercise power in terms of governance, security, and service delivery. And this is the key thing. Unsanctioned, non-state actors exercising power in these areas can undermine the stability needed for success. So this slide just gives you a sense of that first phase, you know, that stabilization phase of the urban reset. So how do we, it's not saying it's a one size fits all, it's really saying with this broad understanding, how do we view and what are we doing in our respective spaces, urban spaces, contested spaces? At a very basic level, do we understand the crime stats in it? Have we ever done a crime survey in the area to understand what is actually happening? Not just we know there's a lot of crime, but basically, what are we doing, understanding to inform our approach to it? Because remember earlier we talked about a data-driven approach. I'm going to go a bit faster now. The second phase is our service building confidence. And for me, this is almost an easier phase, maybe more protracted, but probably easier around service delivery because it's not the security threat dimension to it. So here we talk about providing essential services. This is about your engagement around water sanitation, alternative delivery models, issues with the local authority, green infrastructure, innovative models and there are those, you know, and so forth. How do we increase? And here, remember earlier when I was talking about the SRAs, which is the predominant legal mechanism used for many of our precincts and so forth. Like it's explored in some internal municipal service district, which is allowed to by through the bylaw, the Municipal Systems Act. It says, you know, just like an SRA, property owners within a geography can apply to become an IMSD. They engage with the local authority, and they can then discuss with the local authority what type of services will be rendered, how it will be paid for, and what kind of service levels and so forth. So the legal regulatory mechanism exists for doing that. It's not being done at the moment. I know in Pretoria, they say they are doing it. I met with the Tshwane people. They call it an IMSD, but if you look at it, it's not an IMSD. They're just using the municipal rating, the Rates Act. It's essentially an SRA, but it's called an IMSD. Anyway, so the next phase is then our inclusive development or transformation. We talk about building a long-term resilience. And Yeah, I just said adopt a resilience by design. Resilience is saying, from a placemaking, let's get in there upfront around what does this mean in terms of climate change? What does this mean in terms of sustainability and so forth? And here we talk about the civic participation, youth employment, this whole thing around, we need the social causes of crime. But now we can start addressing it, or that's being addressed concurrently. So this is where we have all of these embedding safety and resilience into the, into the municipal systems. For example, if you look at local authority budgets, unless a project is in the IDP, it's probably not going to be funded from within that local authority. You can do an innovative project, but you must go look for money somewhere else. And the activity of the local authority is going to be, of the official, is going to be driven by his performance contract that's going to time to his IDP and the STF and so forth. So it becomes important that we design and we factor in these indicators into the IDP processes and so forth. And then just that lastly, sustained peace and safety depends on inclusive economic activity opportunities. Obviously, it doesn't help on the one side. We've not done this state control, territorial control. We haven't addressed the job creation issues on the other side, and then you're basically creating an environment where you're breeding potential crime coming from unemployed youth if it's not being tackled, and that is really just demonstrating the link. So just lastly, then I argue that resilience by design is the method, in terms of the how-to, and that urban reset is the mission. That is what we want to achieve, and that we will achieve our urban reset through this kind of resilience by design 3-phase model that I'm proposing. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. I'll stop sharing. Yeah, thanks. I don't know if you have any questions or comments.
Thanks for that, Rudewaan. I was just having audio problems. Thank you for that detailed presentation. I have many questions. I see there's a few hands. My question will just be around accountability. So a plan is set forward. There's goals, achievable goals, the strategy set. In your experience, how has successful models been able to ensure that all the factors and all the players involved are accountable and that there's always obviously positive progression in those projects? That's my question. I don't know if you want to address it first and then go to the rest.
Yeah, let me address it because it's quite a big one. I think, thanks, Katlika. I think the key, an important element is going to be in the design of your intervention or in your project, in terms of accountability. So who are the stakeholders? What are their mandates? What are their responsibilities? And what we have found is that in many instances, we found that the non-state actors are more true to their mandates or in accountability, and then the state actors, if you so what we then had to say is, how do we design a project recognizing the following realities? We're recognizing that there are resource constraints, capacity constraints within the state as an actor. Whatever interventions we design is going to be relying heavily on the non-state actors. There's only so much you can do in terms of holding a state actor to accountability. So that's it. The other thing is just related to the project deliverables. Very clearly who's responsible for what in the project, and then trying to hold them accountable to that. But unless the state actor comes to the party, it's very difficult. I'll give an example of that. When I was with CSP, we gave to one of the metros quite a lot of money, millions and hundreds of millions of rands, in terms of the public employment program. And we involved civil society and industry and so forth. There was a clear rollout plan of how more than 300 million rand for public employment projects that will address urban practice could unfold. And that was signed off. When the money then went to the metro, the local political leadership and local councillors decided to redirect 300 million rand away from, the public employment program. But they were supposed to be responsible for the project, they redirected it. So it becomes very complicated depending on the scale. But yeah, I suppose my answer is it depends. There's only so much you can do in terms of accountability, in terms of the project.
Thank you for that. I'm just gonna open up the floor to Mr. Earl.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing us. Oh, a beautiful presentation, well received. Just a question on the stabilization. I think that's a critical component. I'm from the city of Joburg, and that has really been a grappling issue in terms of law enforcement, because it seems as though everything starts with law enforcement and in terms of stabilization. And I think one of the major drawbacks is also in the inner city, we've got a major issue. For example, one example is with informal trading. And when we tried to stabilize the area, it ended up actually in the Constitutional Court via the Human Rights Committee, Human Rights Organization. And that was really a stumbling block, because it actually then basically came in and it nullified the stabilization idea that we had in terms of stabilizing a particular area. So I think that's a critical one. Then obviously part of the stabilization was the commitment from the various law enforcers. So you will find a greater commitment from, like you said, the private sector, because I think they're driven in a very different manner of thinking, other than government. Government thinkers are morals nog 'n dag. But for the corporates, it's more about service provision, time frames, and getting things done. So getting buy-in from the SAPs, buy-in from those, because it seems as though there's a major role for the investigative side of things, whereas in metros, JMPD doesn't have those investigative powers, but they do have a major role to play in crime prevention through high visibility, etc. So I think getting buy-in from the SAPs is critical. That critical investigations and crime stats-driven information is then used as the platform for also assisting with intelligence, and then obviously driving that portion and dealing with the major syndicates, because that's something that's obviously very prevalent within the inner city, especially around our problematic properties. We've got a large number of hijacked buildings. And those buildings are obviously the drivers of various other crimes, but also it impacts on the urban environment from a waste management point of view, illegal connections, etc., etc. So yeah, so just your thinking on that, and how best to get buy-in from the SAPs, and to manage that relationship. So we do have a city safety strategy in the city. But I think there's been a lack of implementation, and it seems to have died down a bit, which also deals with a lot of what you were discussing in your presentation. I think the framework for the strategy is quite tight. It's aligned to your process as well. And it also deals with the environment in its broad, safety and security in its broader concept, where we all have a role to play in safety and security. It's not just about policing always. But thank you for the presentation. It was well received, and I don't know if we can have a copy of it. If you do share it, is it possible? And then we'll get your details from Katlego, and maybe as a city we can make contact with you, Rudewaan.
Thank you very much, Allied. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to work with you guys, or to discuss things like this. You very much highlight the issues, like I've indicated, and I think a way to approach it would be, I don't know if there's a group of people that comprise the city, other stakeholders, the law enforcement, the private sector, whoever, if there are anybody out there like that, you know, a group of people. I don't know if you've convened a group. I think a first order, if you don't, would be just to convene a group of people, interested and affected parties, and say, guys, can we start something? We know there are things being done, but we also know what the issues are. I'll give you as an example what I did with the city of Cape Town. I met the mayor and I said to him, look, Mr. Mayor, I know you got your staff and you people are busy with your interventions, so forth. But my estimation of your challenge that you have is that nobody, I said to him, Mr. Mayor, I don't think anybody of your staff can give you a map that shows where the different crimes took place in any part of the city, an integrated map. And I sat with some other officials and they concurred. So one first order of business could be with your group that you have, can we just understand where all the crime that's happening? You know, can we map it? Do we have the data? Maybe have the information in different bits here and there. This one has, SAPS has, Metro has, this one has, but can we put it all together and so forth and use that as a kind of a coalescing around the crime issue? But yeah, I begin to have a discussion with you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, sure. So I think we have established a law enforcement task team. Currently, it's just comprised mainly of our regulatory departments and a bit of SAPS now and then. But we are expanding it now. But we also have a presidential working group now on public safety for the inner city. And that's really where we are partnering now with some of our private sector partners from a security point of view. But I think this will create a nice framework and a platform for us to begin our initiatives. And it's true what you say, it does start with the detailed analysis and mapping of hotspot locations for crime, and then obviously zooming into those areas and then stabilizing them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to future discussions. I'll be in contact, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
You know, this is the essence of this forum, really just to make that connection and solve problems together. Thanks for that discussion. I see there's 3 points in the chat from Mr. Ish. Pleasure to have you in the meeting. His first point was, safety and security is a strategic imperative. How could we ensure that this imperative is reflected in state budgets? That's the first point. And then the second one is human rights are an integral element for development. So suggestions, why not collaborate with human rights that advocates human rights advocates in institutions. And then his last point was SERI, LRC, LRH are critical stakeholders. They also have vested interests in city development. So, Mr. Ish, I'm going to give you a chance to kind of make that into one statement. You know, using just unmuting your mic and saying the point to Rudewaan. But while he unmutes, I think the first point is that safety and security imperative being reflected in state budgets.
Yeah, look, I mean, the state operates at different levels, right? So if we talk about the state, you have national government as the state, you have provincial government as the state, you have local government. There are certain internal powers and functions attributed to different levels of government. I think local government, even at the metro level, really has to have law enforcement issues, and they can't interfere with provincial and national imperatives. So when it comes to the budget side, I think the budgets are reflected in the state safety and security are reflected in state budgets at those levels. I'm not sure how effectively it's being implemented. the budgets. I think for me, that is the key thing. I'll, again, even at an attempt to work between the state levels, the challenge becomes integration between the states. So sometimes the Metro will say, look, as Metro Police, we're working with SAPs and we're sitting in joint, I don't know, on a Monday morning, we have joint operations meetings or joint something meetings. But so there are those kinds of things happening, but to the extent to that, how that translates into actual action on the ground is another example, is a different thing. I'm going to just use again an example where I interacted in one of the metros around safety and revitalization. In one of those metros was as treasury. And we sat in formal meetings, intergovernmental coordination meetings, if you like, between all these structures and so forth. So we had SAPS there, we had the police, I mean the Metro Police, we had some other people. And we agreed, okay, we'll do the following. But when it comes to giving effect to what was discussed in the meeting, that becomes a whole different. The station commander said, yes, we'll do that. And then when you try and engage him, you find that the station commander has gone on 6 months of study leave. And there's a complete vacuum now with SAPs. So it's those kinds of stuff, man, that you're settling with. It is a strategic imperative. There's a lot of talk, there's some money, there's some resources, but there's how do you operationalize the resources and the intent? I think that's a challenge. Can I move on to those other ones also, Katlego? Like just quick comment on them.
Yes, please.
On the human rights, I do agree it's an integral element, and I do think people should proactively talk together. Remember in the model, I talked about stabilization, and then you have all this other stuff, and they say one is not saying that people must be excluded. You can actually work together. It's really a matter of getting together. I know, for example, the issue that I was referring to about you try and enforce the law, and then you have human rights bodies argue human rights I think in Cape Town also, around foreign traders, so then you get caught up in this. So the issue becomes we need to sit and talk together and say to what extent there's human rights, but human rights doesn't mean you're entitled to break the law. Doesn't mean that the law don't apply to you anymore. And then the human rights people will argue a human rights counter argument, but that needs to be done within a platform for discussion and engagement. So I do agree with you. They should just try and sit together. I don't know if in the instances that was referred to, whether the human rights bodies or advocates sat with the opposing or the law enforcement authorities. So I don't know, but I do think that it is possible. And I acknowledge there are critical stakeholders. That's my response to that. I think let me to say critical. They also have vested interest in city development, and I agree with you. That is where therefore we need to have those platforms get together and understand what are their vested interests. One of the key challenges that I found, and I was working on, and I'll give you an example just to be a bit of a devil's advocate. I don't know if you're familiar, the audience with the Amazon head office development in Cape Town. Where Amazon put a piece, and there was a lot of contestation.
Seem to have lost Rudewaan, probably a connection issue. He should be back at any moment. But while we wait for him to rejoin, I think it's best to just start the next presentation. Okay, I think he's back Yes, there is.
Sorry, I don't know what happened, Katlego. I think just said you've been removed from this meeting, so I thought somebody didn't like what I was saying there. Anyway.
No problem.
So sorry about that. So really, the challenge here, I was involved in that project, and the issue became, we went to the courts and the really Supreme Courts of Appeal and all kinds of stuff, but the issue became stakeholders is, who, at what point do you listen to every stakeholder? And so I suppose all that I'm saying is when it comes to stakeholders, we all are part of it, wherever the stakeholders are, need to get together and agree on some process of engagement and dialogue. And I think one of the decisions that collective must take when they're working together as a collective is, does collectivization or collective working together necessarily mean consensus building? Does it mean that if we're going to co-design something on city development, does it mean that there must be consensus amongst all stakeholders? Or do you have some kind of deadlock breaking mechanisms that you build into your dialogue and engagement that allows for a development to go ahead irrespective of there not being consensus by all parties? And I think that's quite a challenging thing. And that one would have to take on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. Thank you.
So that, Mr. Ish.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rudewaan. And thanks, Katlego, rather. You are right that much of developments around our cities are
Yes.
either held back by a mafia, which is a negative force, or you like we had today, there are those who will say human rights organizations are delaying us. But it's a question of what you have said, alignment, and we be able to have some open, accountable dispute resolution mechanism, because we can't all the time go to court to resolve issues. So that is why I raised those suggestions that sit down, talk with those people rather than meet when you are already fighting. Thank you.
I concur 100%. Thanks for that, Ish.
Thanks, Ish. I saw Anne had her hand up. Do you still want to make your comment then?
Well, thank you so much. Hi, Rudewaan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Most of my points have been made, which is why I put my hand up and down. I think that you have a very wonderful opportunity to speak truth to power at the moment, Rudewaan. So I'm grateful for that, and we are grateful for that. And if you met Johannesburg, that would be wonderful. There is an organization in Johannesburg, not represented here today because they're at other meetings, but FIRM, FIRM, who are doing a wonderful job. So I think that they're a great example, and I'm quite sure Earl will bring them into the conversation. So there is a grouping in Johannesburg, and of course the Inner City Partnership. One point I wanted to make, this accountability thing is a challenge, there's no doubt. And the different, if you like, energies that the state and the private sector have. But I do think, and this is the drum I've been banging for such a long time, that in the position that you're in, if you could help enable municipalities to enter into sustainable partnerships with all levels of private society who want to partner, I think that would help a lot. Obviously, the SRA policy and bylaw in Cape Town works very well, although it excludes some members of community, but it does work very well. The rest of the country is struggling along with not having user-friendly legislation where groupings can enter into sustainable partnerships. So I think if you could add that into your truth to power as you move along. And obviously there's a great conversation going on at the moment, and there's all sorts of work being done by Andrew Borain and other people on this. And we're very keen to be involved in that. I think that would be an added benefit. It doesn't have to be as strict as the SRA, but I just think if there's something that is accepted, Shwani is doing wonderful work under the Municipal Systems Act on this. And I think if there was something that would make an arrangement between community business and the state more sustainable, I think it would be extremely helpful to everybody. But the rest has all been said. Thanks.
Thanks, Anne. And you know, I was wondering whether, as the association, you shouldn't consider it as a pilot project. Say, guys, look, this is an issue that affects everybody. Let's create our own pilot, and then once we as a collective decide we're going to pilot this issue that you've just highlighted, Anne, and as a collective, you agree where you want to do it. And then we pool our effort and our resources into a pilot, a demonstration project of sorts, and whether it's the various powers, resources, and so forth. And so, guys, we think this is the solution. We're not going to wait on the state. We are going to come up with a project, and we're going to drive it. And once we gain sufficient momentum, you know, we will, as we go along, people will come on board and so forth. So that's also an option. I mean, you know, that we could pursue, but that's more for the association to decide.
Thanks for that, Rudewaan. I see here Lerato Kiba from the Johannesburg Inner City Partnership made a comment to say, what oversight mechanisms are in place to prevent the misuse of authority or excessive policing? This should be considered from both legal and ethical perspectives regarding stabilization.
Thanks. It's a very valid. Which I think that the thing is, if we have the kind of, remember we were talking about the principles and the approach that we're going to adopt, the working together, the community policing, and so forth. I think if we adopt those kind of practice, then we would have a mechanism to report, a mechanism to check, to counter, and also there are state mechanisms to address it. Like, so I think it's all in the design, really in the design of the intervention type of thing. If, say, for example, a project gets put in, I don't know, in the city of Johannesburg, and there's agreement on, the law enforcement authorities do have their mechanisms, but I also do think that, you know, if we augment that with some kind of a multi-stakeholder, remember, I was saying in the model is about multi-stakeholder, joint, data-driven, then we have empirical mechanisms in place. Because it speaks to, I'll tell you another similar kind of problem that we were facing as National Treasury was that one of, you know, a big problem that we have is how to put this, corruption in our authorities, in our local authorities and other structures like. And when we were managing projects, and we interacted as Treasury with foreign donors, because foreign donors would come to National Treasury and say, look, as SECO, the Swiss, or as GIZ, or as this one, we want to donate or fund down projects, but they can't just go into a country. So the centralized point becomes National Treasury. So there's a platform for all these donors come via Treasury, and we assist, or Treasury, not we, Treasury assisting. And one of the big challenges then became the issue around, if a project is targeted intervention, say in a certain method, and we know as the government, as Treasury especially, there are issues around corruption and funding and lack of accountability and murky stuff happening in a particular metro, which there are levels of knowledge around these things that the Treasury has that the normal, public or state actors don't have. Then if you have a donor coming along and says, look, I would really like to fund this focus area and in this geography, and I want to put this money into a project there. So the issue then becomes, where does that money go? Do you do you put that donor money into that local government environment that you know there's corruption taking place? Are you going to authorize the money to go into that? You obviously can't. So then the challenge became, how do you create, and became a design issue. That's why I kind of keep on deferring to design. How do you design an intervention that allows for the project financial accountability to be through a special vehicles, SPV, special purpose vehicle, that the money don't go into the municipal budget, but into a separate vehicle with checks and balances of state and non-state actors from different tiers there to protect precisely. And I think that's the same argument of oversight over to prevent mischief of authority and excessive policing, is to create those kind of mechanisms. And that is where the creativity and innovative niche type structures, out of the box thinking comes. And the same would apply in the precinct management context, the practices. How do we create innovative structures with multiple stakeholders, with checks and balances in place that does not allow for any party to hijack a process, so it doesn't become the issue of a councillor dictating who must be employed on your projects or any of those other kind of stuff that we typically get confronted with. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I also just want to ask you if you've ever encountered, just as a last question, an urban reset model, obviously that was met with what is currently kind of happening in Johannesburg in the sense of that continuous changing of leadership. And obviously now that redirects the focus, redirects projects. But I just wanted to find out if you've dealt with this and kind of how you've worked your way around getting progress with one official, and then now they removed, and now it's another one. Now it's always restarting and restarting. How do you get to a point of continuity, essentially?
Okay,
That's
thanks.
my question.
Yeah, one of the challenges that we were facing was that because we were working across different tiers of government and with different degrees of complexity and competence, we kind of coined a phrase called the crumbling state, that the state is crumbling, but you have pockets of effectiveness. So the issue then become, how do you work with pockets of effectiveness, recognizing the challenge that you have? And then it boiled down again to what I was saying earlier, which was designing an intervention where you have, this is actually how we approach it, is to say, okay, look, we like even with those industrial park revitalization strategies. Yes, we have an official who's the head of this, but we know that official may or not be renewed, he may leave, there may be this, there may be that. So you design a project so that non-state actors are on the steering committee. They have critical components in the work that needs to be done. They are in strategic positions so that the momentum of the project gets carried insofar as it's possible, because it's not always possible to the extent that you want it, carried to a certain, that they maintain the momentum irrespective of what happens in the state. And hopefully you then keep rebuilding the relationship or you maintain the integrity of your project irrespective of what's happening on the side. So that's the only way that we found thus far, Katlego, that I know of, was that otherwise your project comes to a standstill, it grinds to a halt. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I know Earl had set up an ABMs for different areas. I think that was very effective. Area-based management initiatives, just so that regardless of the bureaucratic changes, I think the area-based plan will always stay the area-based plan. I guess that's kind of what I think you're referring to.
Exactly. Yeah, very similar. Yeah, exactly. So now your area-based plan can be where you have, and that is a useful, I don't know, that's in Joburg. eThekwini also has ABM's area-based management teams, where you have those teams, again, meant to be for internal integration of service delivery, you know, so there are ABMs in the area. But then that ABM, one of the things that our approach has been at the CSP to say, okay, so what you do is you have your internal to the state, your ABM type structure, which is a coordination integration platform at the localized scale, which is your area scale. And then parallel to that, your other building block becomes your non-state actor. And that non-state actors, your local communities, your civil societies, your industry, they become another collective. And the dialogue and the engagement takes place at that scale between your ABM and your localized non-state collective here. And that is how you, so irrespective of whether the mayor goes or the next party wins, this dynamic is robust, should be robust enough to be able to withstand those kind of pressures or changes and so forth.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to your engagement with the city of Johannesburg. I will share your contact details with Earl, just to see how you can just assist them. But thanks again for this fruitful presentation. Feel free to stay for a second presentation, but just really thank you for your time, insight, and expertise.
Thank you. You're welcome, Peter. Thanks.
Thanks, Rudewaan.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, so we're gonna move now to Mr. Tony Sainchich. Hopefully I said that correctly. Please correct me if I didn't. So he represents a company called Babore Services, launched in 1994. What they do is they provide professional cleaning and sweeping solutions using innovative equipment for clean, safe, and efficient environments, right? So he's just going to take us through the company, the services they provide, and also just open up for questions around the different services that they provide. So Tony, just let me know if you want me to float your presentation or you are able to float it on your side, and I'll do so. Thank you.
Katlego, thank you. Yes, let me see if I can share. Can you see that?
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Katlego. Yes, and as Rudewaan was saying, I think our work is a lot easier than his and everybody else involved. Cleaning up the city with regards to safety and security, we also look at cleaning up the city from a different aspect, as you mentioned. Okay, so yes, as you mentioned, Babore has been in the cleaning and sweeping game for many years. Originally, mainly sweeping, road sweeping contractor, and so forth. When we speak about
Tony.
Yes.
Tony, may you please go into presentation mode?
Sorry, is it not there?
No.
Let me just.
So it's on your bottom right of your screen next to the icon for adjusting your zoom. Where is it? Looks like yes, that there.
Okay, yeah, I was in there now. It doesn't look like it went through.
Yeah, it's just clicking the slideshow button essentially.
Is that better now? It's showing it on my screen like that.
It's not changing on my side.
Going. No, it doesn't look like it's sharing. Can I maybe ask you to float yours if you don't mind, Katlego? Let's use that one then, if you don't mind. Seems to be a problem on this side.
Do you see it on your side?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so as I was saying, Babore also like to assist in cleaning and has been involved in cleaning up the cities and roadways for many years. Our existing client base is associations like SANRAL, AXA, various municipalities, and then obviously industry and retail as well. If we can go to the next slide. Just a very short video, if we can just play that, just to give you an indication of what we do. I don't know if you can put the sound on, Katlego, or not.
Are you guys getting the sound?
No.
Okay, let me just do that. Is the sound coming through now?
No, I don't hear anything. But it's fine. It's just a short video in any case. This video was actually taken 6 weeks back in the road where we are based. We actually thought the street was fairly clean in any case, compared to some other areas. And yeah, once the machine has gone through, you're actually surprised what you pick up. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Because Bobore is a proudly South African level 1 BEE company specializing in diesel and battery industrial road sweeping equipment and professional cleaning solutions. We serve municipalities, estates, industrial sites, and commercial facilities across the country with high-performance sweeping and scrubbing machines built for durability, efficiency, and environmental responsibility. Our range of products includes diesel, battery-powered, and 100% electric options to suit various operational needs with local support, operator trading, and flexible purchase or rental options. Bobore is your trusted partner in delivering cleaner, safer, and more productive environments. Next slide, please. Okay, many people would think it's quite obvious why you need to sweep a road, is to make the road look a little cleaner and just makes the total environment looking clean. But there's a lot more involved in sweeping roads. When it comes to health and safety compliance, it removes dust and debris to prevent respiratory issues and slip hazards. Improves curb appeal and enhances property value and community pride, obviously, as well. Protects road surfaces and reduces the need for frequent repairs. On that point, we're basically saying is it's been proven technically that just dust, sand, a little bit of dead grass and so on the roads actually assists in the potholes that we are all experiencing. That's where it starts. That's the root cause of it is not from maintaining your roads. It actually goes into the port of the roads and starts destroying the base under the road. Okay, environmental responsibility. It prevents waste and pollutants from entering stormwater systems. Obviously, stormwater drains are then flooded, and we have flooding problems all over. And it's not because the drainage system is not designed properly for the volume of water. It's basically because the systems are all clogged up with pollutants and sand and stones and sticks and so on. Time saving. Obviously, through our equipment, it delivers faster, more effective cleaning compared to manual labor. And then from a professional side, demonstrates high standards to residents, visitors, and investors in the area. Next slide, please. Okay, efficient sweeping quickly removes dirt, debris, and dust from various surfaces. Dust suppression, as I mentioned before. Large area coverage. Our equipment can basically sweep up to 60 kilometers a day, which is a huge area in a very short space of time. easy maintenance and training. So our equipment is simple to operate and maintain. We also maintain the equipment on behalf of the contractor, and then obviously training for all the operators. Outsourced operators, we have skilled operators available as well for short-term or long-term hire if required. It can take some time to get the operator used to the equipment, especially if you're looking at the bigger truck on the left-hand side of the screen, and where that becomes a bit of an issue from a insurance point of view. The equipment is quite expensive and so on. We would actually provide skilled operators from our side. Then maneuverability, compact design allows easy movements in tight or complex spaces. Next slide, please. These are obviously the smaller machines which we would use for pavements, industries, retail, parking lots, those kinds of setups, cleaning from 10,000 to 12,000 square meters per hour. Next slide, please. And a little bit of a larger sweeper. This will be used mainly in industries, residential estates, and larger areas, park areas, and so on, cleaning up to 21,000 square meters per hour. Next slide, please. We start going to the larger machines with a 1 cubic meter capacity, where you can see now, obviously, depending on the environment, which can sweep any area from 15,000 to 24,000 square meters per hour. Areas which we've been successful with these machines predominantly are there's even municipal areas around shopping malls, industries, and many residential estates, golf estates, and the likes. Next slide, please. This is our 10X machine, which is similar to the previous slide. They come in different sizes from 1,000 liters, which is 1 cube, up to the latest one now is a 5 cube machine. These are 100% electric machines, low noise, zero emissions, operate up to 9-10 hours per shift per battery charge. And it's the green way to go. But it is, compared to the old South African and African way of operating with diesel, they are quite pricey, but we have started getting them into the market with low maintenance cost, or practically zero maintenance costs. It's actually a good investment and good for the environment as well. Next slide, please. Our largest machine, which we have in our sweeping fleet, is the Fiorentini AF6000. This is for heavy-duty, continuous use sweeping, not only roads, but also in industries. We have these kind of machines in places like chrome mines, iron ore mines, and so on, to keep the dust suppression down, but also to collect material that is spread through trucks and trains and haulage and everything else on the roads, pick it up and actually put it back into production. We have, as you can see, there's eco-friendly, the previous one I mentioned. We have an electric unit and a diesel unit as well. Best use cases is large municipalities, airports, and heavy industries. Excuse me. Why partner with Bobore? Means working with a trusted industry leader committed to excellence. As a BEE Level 1 company, we support local empowerment and transformation. Our use of locally sourced parts ensures fast service and minimal downtime, keeping your operations running smoothly. We include operator training with every machine to maximize safety and efficiency on site. Flexible finance options make acquiring our equipment easy and affordable. We'll go into detail a little bit later. Trusted by municipalities and corporates alike, Babore delivers reliable solutions tailored to your unique cleaning needs. Next slide, please. Our clients, as I mentioned before, municipalities, public facilities, estates, property groups, industrial warehousing, and construction companies. Next slide, please. Okay, moving on from the sweeping side. Sweeping goes hand in hand with scrubbing. So our scrubbing machines, which you can see on the three photos that we've put on here, is basically for parking areas, paving areas, any large areas outdoors that can be used at places such as airports, shopping centers, malls, industries as well. And yeah, as we can see, this is probably at the stadium somewhere. So also for football stadiums, rugby stadiums, etc., sports stadiums. Next slide, please. Yes, just a few examples of the machines which we would use in industries. When I speak about industry, I speak about warehousing, logistics, distribution, but also industries such as raw material manufacturers and suppliers. We've actually have a number of clients where factories have, or should I say residential areas, have encroached on industrial areas, and yeah, the pollution on the road from haulage trucks and so on starts increasing. And to stop the area, besides having a large sweeper outside on the road, which some of the industries actually provide for free, is also to keep the actual manufacturing area clean in the first place, so that it doesn't contaminate the surrounding area. But using these kind of machines, scrubbers and sweepers. Next slide, please. Facilities such as retail, warehousing, logistics, as I mentioned, there's just a few examples of the equipment that we would use inside those type of facilities. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where it comes to the affordabilities, as Babore offers multiple flexible options to acquire floor scrubbing machines and sweepers. Sorry, this includes the sweepers as well. There's an outright purchase option where you buy the machine outright to own it immediately, giving you full control and no ongoing rental fees. A rent to own, spread the cost over 36, 48 or 60 months with affordable monthly payments, eventually owning the machine at the end of the term. And short-term rentals, which is there's increasing need for short-term rentals nowadays. People doing one-off cleaning, you can't afford to purchase the machine on a permanent basis, so you'd maybe hire it for a week every 2 or 3 months, whatever the case may be. Is where you can choose daily, weekly or bi-weekly rental periods for temporary cleaning needs or special projects. You can opt for rentals with or without operators, depending on your preference and staffing availability. To keep your machines running smoothly, we provide service agreements and maintenance plans, ensuring regular upkeep, repairs, and support of the equipment. So when you rent the machine, you do not need to be concerned about maintenance costs, spare parts costs, consumable costs. It's all included in the price. Next slide, please. And there we are. Contact us at these numbers, obviously. I think, Katlego, you did say that our profile would be on the website. So if anybody needs to get hold of us, it is quite easy, or just go to www.babore.co.za. I think that's the last slide, Katlego.
Thanks for that, Tony. Thanks for that.
Yes, thank you very much. And thanks for your time, Katlego, and for allowing us to present to all of the members.
No problem, no problem. I just wanted to open up the floor if anyone has any questions specific to Tony before I just ask my question. Yeah, so I guess my question would be these machines, in terms of dealing with dumping sites, what's their capabilities in that? Are they restricted to just street sweeping, or can they handle more heavy duty type of cleaning as well?
They can handle heavy cleaning, which we do at a few of the mines. We used to have a couple of machines at the Richards Bay Coal Terminal, as example, and so on. When it comes to dumping sites where your road surface is actually sand, it's not really going to work because it's going to start picking up the road itself. It operates with a vacuum system to suppress the dust. With water suppression sprays, but also fairly heavy duty brushes, and this will eventually start eating away on the dirt road itself. So as long as it's a solid surface, a concrete or a road or a paving surface, then it can basically pick up anything. When it comes to large objects like there might be building rubble and bricks and so on, then the operator would actually get out and actually physically put that into the machine. It has an option for that.
Okay, that's actually very insightful, and I really like the flexible acquisition models, because there's obviously some city improvement districts that would want to get this equipment, but obviously the affordability issue comes into play. So I was happy that there was many options under that umbrella. I also wanted to ask, in terms of your client base, I see you listed mainly like big organizations, your Sunral and AXAs and so on and so forth. Just what type of smaller clients do you come across that are more on the outdoor cleaning side?
If we look at outdoor cleaning, we would look at of smaller factories, small, not the big enclosed malls, and as we call it, a strip mall, a little shopping center that has maybe got a spa or a Pick and Pay or something with an open area in it. They would actually use those machines on their corridors, inside the retail stores, and also in the parking areas. Then you're looking at a far smaller machine with obviously you don't need to spend big money to be able to afford those machines.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And then before I obviously let you go, I just wanted to give one more opportunity for anyone who would like to just ask a question. But alternatively, as Tony said, we will have all the details on the website, including contacts and so on and so forth. If this is something of interest for your area, really good, strong, sturdy products. So definitely contact Tony and hopefully just speak about a package that works for your area. Thank you for the time, Tony. Thank you for the presentation, and definitely we'll be in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, with that being said, I'm going to obviously the next meeting is on the 2nd of September in terms of the next Urban Practice Forum. And then the next chapter meeting would be on the 26th of August. Hopefully, I can give a feedback session there regarding the M2 precinct design sprint that occurred. But another note is to please look out for the newsletter. It should be out this week or next week. That'll just summate all the key events from May until now. And then also look out for the national discussion on possible frameworks for the SRA or IMSD application. We are obviously planning that session. It's just a more of getting the scheduling right. So there's already people in our network that have voiced that they would be interested in being part of this conversation around how to enable management initiative, city improvement district. So that's on the way. And as always, there's always your presidential Johannesburg working groups. We have been requested to submit lists of service delivery issues that have been a bottleneck in our precincts. So please feel free to email me those lists of your service delivery issues so I can send it to the relevant presidential Johannesburg working group meetings. And also, if you have any ideas or suggestions that you would want to be relayed at the presidential Johannesburg working groups, please also reach out to me for that. And then for those who didn't see the email, please provide me with job-related data in your precincts. We are still compiling that list for SAPOA, just to gauge the amount of employment that has been generated by city improvement districts. I think it's really an important exercise to show the value of city improvement districts. And yeah, with that being said, I'm just going to take just a round of comments from everyone in the meeting. You can just, say thank you for the presentations, and that's all. But if you want to make a comment, please feel free. So I'm going to start with Angela. Is there anything you want to say?
No, Katlego, thank you so much. Thanks for a very informative and interesting meeting. Thank you.
No problem, Angela. Basil. I think, Basil, you are muted. Just unmute yourself. Okay, while Basil's figuring that out, I'll go to Diale.
Thank you very much, Katlego. Colleagues, all good for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Diale. Hi, teacher.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much. It was very informative session. We'll take certain aspects forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. High Teacher. High Teacher is from
Hi, Chair.
Salga. Basil, you're back. Okay, you can make your comments.
Sorry, I had some technical glitches there, but I was saying nothing from my side. Thank you for the lovely session.
Thanks, Basil. Mr. Ish.
Yeah, for me is that do you get any update from the G20 people? Because I think when these people visit us, we need to show a good face of Johannesburg. G20 briefing. Thank you.
So the briefings usually happen at the presidential working groups, mainly the presidential working group 8. So that's where we kind of get our updates. But there's a colleague I want to bring in the next session just to give us a briefing on the full scope for G20. So just stay tuned for that update. Thank you. Katie?
Nothing from me. Thanks, Katlego.
Katie. Kelvin? Okay, Lerato?
Thank you, Katlego. From my side, thank you for a very informative session.
Thank you for joining again. Lunisani? I think there's audio problems. Lusanda?
Nothing really, Katlego. I'm just interested to get a sense from all the, stakeholders who are involved in urban management, whether they feel they're making any progress. Really, are we going forward or backwards? I've just been feeling like things feel like they're moving a little backwards. So it will be interesting to hear how others are finding their various programs and activities. Thanks.
I'll make a note of that, and then I'll send a survey to our network just to see their sentiment around progress being made. Thank you for that. Actually, that's a very great idea. It is a difficult time, and progress is few and far between, so we're trying to get a hold of that as well. Miso.
Okay, thank you, Katlewo. What I would love to get is the presentation, the first presentation. If it can be shared to me, I will really appreciate. And then thank you very much for the session. That's all from my side.
No problem, Miso. We will definitely share it with everyone and let you know when we've uploaded it to the website. Thanks for that, Miso. And then Mpo.
Good morning, everyone. No, nothing from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mpo. And then Datus Gapo.
Yeah, thank you, Katleo. It was quite insightful for me. Very much appreciated. And it's quite exciting to learn about best practices. Thank you so much.
No problem. As always, thank you for joining. And then Mrs. Tola. Mpumelelo. To Nonkulego.
Thank you, Katleho. It was quite an informative session. Thank you so much. Great work. Thanks.
No problem. And then Uhodi Singh. Uhudi Singh.
Thank you so much, Katleho. Thank you for the presentations. It was very informative. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. And then Robla?
Nothing from me. Thank you very much.
No problem. Hopefully we are closer to dealing with that Florence building for you. And then Rudewaan. I think he's also having issues. And then Mr. Ruggiero.
Hi, everybody. No, nothing on this side at this stage. Thanks.
Thanks, Ruggiero. And then Mr. Sabir.
I'm covered, Chair. If you can just hook us up with Rudewaan.
Definitely. I'm going to.
Please.
Definitely. Mr. Sam.
Hi, Katleo and the colleagues. Nothing from me. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Sam. And then I just wanted to check the work underway on that big issue that you had. I think was it on 4th or 5th Avenue? Is that the progress over there?
No, there's progress.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. And then I see Siobhan joined us. Thank you for joining. Anything from you?
Thanks, Katlego. Yes, I just want to say thank you for always finding interesting and uplifting things for us to expand our minds. I was very interested in the first presentation, and it's always a pleasure to join this group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. We will try to obviously keep that trend going, just so you always learn something and are engaged in each of our sessions. Thank you. Tony?
Nothing else from my side, Katlego, but thank you very much for another insightful meeting.
Thank you so much. And then Zolile?
Thank you, Katlego. This was a very informative session. This is Zolile from the JCP. Thank you.
Thank you for attending, Zolile. And as always, please join us again. There will always be interesting things like this happening. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all for attending. We will obviously keep you updated on recent discoveries. And as I said, please submit those issues, submit your job data, and look out for that national discussion. With that, I'll just bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy your day, your week, and your month. See you at the end of the month. And I wish nothing but the best for all of you in your respective areas, organization, and industries. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katlego.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Katlego. Bye. Bye, everybody.